record in general. All talk and no action. Big announcements, zero follow-through. Indigenous communities need the Prime Minister to Fundy Royal.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm rising today on a question of privilege concerning the premature disclosure of the contents of Bill C-22, an act to amend the Criminal Code and the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act.
I just want to interrupt for a moment. I'm not sure your camera is on, if you want to turn it on and start from the beginning. Or are we working, or is it functional? Okay, a point of order to a point of order. Is it?
Based on the decision that you have made, I think you will reach out. The whip of the official opposition is trying to get in contact with us in the House of Commons by internet, so it's coming in a few seconds. There is some difficulty, and as you know, it was asked by him. So I think before addressing any other issue, you should reach out the whip of the official opposition.
Go to the honourable member for Fundy Royal. Is it okay if we continue to the honourable opposition whip? Can you hear me?
I hear you, Mr. Speaker.
Is it okay? I just want to confirm that it's okay. I believe the honourable whip for the opposition has a word to say, and we'll come back to the honourable member for Fundy Royal, if that's okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for your understanding. The honourable member for Banff Airdrie.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
There you are. Good.
In our age of Zoom, of course, technical challenge can arise, and my Surface Pro this morning decided it was going to be problematic. I just logged in, but I did not have a chance to hear your ruling. Of course, I was prepared and am prepared to move the appropriate motion should you have found a prima facie case, but I unfortunately missed your ruling as a result of the technical challenges and do not know whether in fact it's appropriate for me to do so at this point.
Okay, very good. With the consent of the House, what we'll do... Oh, sorry, 1 second.
You ruled that there's no motion to move.
Very good. There is no question of privilege, so there is no reason to move. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the honourable member for Fundy Royal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I'm rising on a question of privilege concerning the recent disclosure and premature disclosure of the contents of Bill C-22, an act to amend the Criminal Code and Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. Yesterday, the CBC posted online at 8:47 a.m. an article that outlined details of Bill C-22. Bill C-22 was in fact introduced in the House later that morning. The article, Mr. Speaker, outlines several measures contained in the bill, including amendments to the Criminal Code and Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, and the elimination of several mandatory minimum penalties. The article also boasts the reliance on sources, not unlike the case I raised with you, in fact, on another matter of privilege almost 1 year ago. On February 25th, 2020, I was on my feet in the House defending the privileges of this House on the matter of the premature disclosure of the contents of Bill C-7, an act to amend the Criminal Code, medical assistance in dying. In that case, the Canadian press posted an article that disclosed the details of the bill before it was introduced in the House and after the bill went on notice. On March 10th, 2020, you came back to this House with your ruling, and you said, and I quote, "Based on a reading of the Canadian Press article on Bill C-7 on medical assistance in dying, and in the absence of any explanation to the contrary, I must conclude that the anonymous sources mentioned were well aware of our customs and practices and chose to ignore them. It seems clear to me that the content of the bill was disclosed prematurely while it was on notice and before it was introduced in the House. The rule on the confidentiality of bills on notice exists to ensure that members, in their role as legislators, are the first to know their content when they are introduced. It is forbidden to reveal specific measures contained in a bill at the time it is put on notice." End quote. As everyone knows, the Department of Justice, unfortunately, has a history of leaking the contents of government bills. On April 19th, 2016, the Speaker found that there was a prima facie case of privilege regarding Bill C-14, an act to amend the Criminal Code and to make related amendments to other acts, medical assistance in dying, and said at the time, quote, as honorable members know, one of my most important responsibilities as Speaker is to safeguard the rights and privileges of members, individually and collectively. Central to the matter before us today is the fact that due to its preeminent role in the legislative process, the House cannot allow precise legislative information to be distributed to others before it has been made accessible to all members. Previous speakers have regularly upheld Another question of privilege was raised on March 19, 2001, regarding, once again, the Department of Justice briefing the media on a bill before members of Parliament. In that ruling, Speaker Milliken said at page 1840 of the House of Commons debates, quote, in preparing legislation, the government may wish to hold extensive consultations, and such consultations may be held entirely at the government's discretion. However, with respect to a material to be placed before Parliament, the House must take precedence. Once a bill has been placed on notice, whether it has been presented in a different form to a different session of Parliament has no bearing, and the bill is considered a new matter. The Convention of Confidentiality of Bills on Notice is necessary not only so that members themselves may be well informed, but also because of the preeminent role that the House plays and must play in the legislative affairs of the nation. End quote. The Speaker found another case of contempt on October 15th, 2001 involving, once again, Mr. Speaker, they just don't seem to learn, involving the Department of Justice, after it briefed the media on the contents of a bill prior to the legislation being introduced in the House. Here we are, Mr. Speaker, being asked once again to deal with the contemptuous actions of the Minister of Justice and his justice team. We've had countless rulings from the Speaker, from the Chair. The House has expressed itself on numerous occasions. We have had frequent debates and extensive committee studies. The message is crystal clear, yet the responsible minister continues to draft bills and then leak those bills to the media, ignoring the will of this House. I ask that you find a prima facie case of privilege, and I'm prepared to move the appropriate motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.